at home.
Hello, everyone that's watching at home. Just wanted to let you know we're still waiting for some committee members to join us before we begin.
Chair Lance, can we offer up public comment without the full quorum?
Yeah, I think you could do that. Yeah, you could open the meeting and do public comment if you've got anybody.
Great. Okay. I would like to call the Policy Committee of the Portland Board of Public Education to order. It is Monday, December 8th. We are meeting in an online format. My name is Maya Lena, and I am the chair of the Policy Committee. I'll go ahead with introductions. Tonight we have with us Vice Chair of the Board and District 1 Representative Mickey Bondo. We have Chair of the Board Sarah Lenz, Chief of Strategy and Operations Dr. Sarah Warren. We're also joined tonight by Kathleen Wade from Drummond Woodsum and Bridget Wheeler, is the Director of Compliance in the HR Department for Portland Public Schools. And I'd like to ask if anyone here would like to give public comment, and if you would, please raise your Zoom hand. Okay, I don't see anyone with any public comment, so I will go ahead and close public comment. We do not have a quorum of committee members, so we're going to wait to start the meat of the meeting. I'll go over the agenda just in case they trickle in as that's happening. Let's see. Okay, tonight we are planning to go over policy GBEB, which is staff conduct with students, policy BEDH, public participation at board meetings, and then the policy committee just received the policies ACAA and ACAB, which were the harassment and discrimination and sexual harassment of students, and the other one is of school employees. Those were sent off to the full board, and the board decided to send them back to committee after some input from the community. So, still don't have a quorum. Um, I may call the committee members just to see. So I'll put myself on.
Chair Lance, do we have any past practice around this? And do we go till 6:15 or?
No, there hasn't really been a past practice. Yeah, I think if we waited until like 6:20, and if they're still not here, then I think go ahead and close the meeting, just because I don't want to waste other people's time as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, I was able to get in touch with board member Yusra Ali, and she should be joining us in a few minutes. And I just noticed that Dr. Ahmed is in the attendees area. They're great. There's board member Yusra Ali. Wonderful.
Thank
Board
you.
member Ali, just to catch you up, we did open the meeting and we offered public comment and nobody offered public comment. So I closed that and I moved on to going over the agenda. And so that's where we are. So, Dr. Warren, I think we can get started.
Great, thank you. Um, so first I just wanted to, I missed you all last time. I was with another committee. I had to cover the Finance and Operations Committee last time. So I did watch this committee meeting and got caught up. But I wanted to just comment a little bit on some questions I think were coming up around process, and in particular, the support that the legal team provides around the policy revision process. Um, and from where I sit, just want to be very clear, and I'm clear, that the board sets policy. Staff comes with recommendations. We pass on revisions that are suggested by the legal team. We provide questions and comments that come from the legal team or our own, those that we gather from staff and others. But we defer to the board on what the policy looks like ultimately. And the legal team provides legal advice, right? So we have Kathleen Wade here from Drummond Woodsum, and I just wanted to give her a minute to share a little bit about how she approaches that policy review process.
Thank you. Yeah, just so since I haven't met everyone, I am Kathleen Wade. I'm an attorney at Drummond Woods. I'm part of our school law team. And one of my areas of expertise, developing expertise is to the extent you can be an expert, is policy. And so a lot of the times when I'm providing policy feedback, what I am doing obviously is looking for potential areas of legal non-compliance, either because the law is updated or because things have changed, right, since the last time we reviewed the policy. And so flagging those areas definitely. But another thing that we like to do is to sort of ask questions or otherwise give comments about areas where we're seeing a lot of activity, just because that's sort of the benefit of having somebody who sees a lot from a lot of different places, I think. And so sometimes I'll make suggestions, even where it's not necessarily a legal suggestion, just to sort of flag something that has been coming up as a potential problem in other places. So things like if something is vague or could create confusion, I'll flag that even though that area of vagueness or confusion isn't necessarily a problem from a legal perspective. And so sometimes you'll see comments from the legal team that are just sort of flagging other issues for you. And if you're not having a problem with those, you should feel free to ignore those. Or if you're not sure what we mean when we flag something, obviously always happy to follow up. But generally that's what we're doing when we're reviewing policy.
Great, thank you, Kathleen. And I think there were a couple of questions that arose around specific policies, and we'll bring Kathleen back in to share a little bit more nuance around those. But that's a little bit of framing up front. So I think I'm going to go ahead and move on and start with policy GBEB, which is listed first in the agenda. So bear with me for a second while I project
Sure,
it.
while you do that, Dr. Warren, it looks like Chair Lentz would like to say something. Go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
I just wanted to say kind of on top of what Kathleen mentioned, that sometimes we can say no to things that the legal team flags, and also we can decide kind of like based on what they flag, like how much risk do we want to try to absorb or not. Like there's a they're providing us with kind of like one end of the spectrum, and we can decide kind of how much we want to agree or disagree with what they're flagging. So I just wanted to say that out loud as well. So just because something is being recommended, it doesn't mean that we have to do it.
Great, thank you for that added clarification. That's helpful. Okay, So looking at policy GBEB, this is staff conduct with students. And this is one that we've been looking at now over a period of several meetings because the committee has really been developing this policy with input from school leaders and others. And so what you have in front of you tonight is the completed first draft, I guess is how I would describe that. And it is based on the model policy provided by Drummond Woodsum. But then we have, as a committee, you have adapted it and tried to make it more appropriate for Portland Public Schools in our community. So this is without any red lines this time because actually we're not redlining an existing policy. This is a brand new policy for us. But what's in front of you is for discussion and a potential vote tonight, if you are ready for that, to pass it on to the board. And so I guess I would just open it up for any questions or discussion you might want to lead, Chair Lena.
Yeah, I think at the end of the last meeting, it seemed to be that there was agreement among the committee members that it looked good and appropriate for Portland. But if any committee members would like to share anything or Chair Lentz, please go ahead. I mean, I think this is sort of where we were last time, Dr. Warren. I just people felt comfortable given the feedback from the building leaders and staff, and just the feedback that we had had. It looked pretty good to us. So
Great.
I think
So
we'd
you've
be
got a
ready.
clean version with no red
Yeah.
lines, and I think you can move ahead if you're ready.
Yeah. Great. Where's my little note here? Okay. I would like to make a motion to pass policy GBEB through the policy committee and on to the full board. Is there a second? Thank you, Board Member Yusra Ali. Are there any questions from the committee on the motion? Is there any public comment? Great. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, then by roll call vote, please indicate whether you are in favor of passing policy GBEB through the committee and on to the full board. Um, Board Member Yusra Ali,
Sorry. Yes.
Vice Chair Bondo,
Yes.
and I'm yes, so the motion passes. Okay, thank you, Dr. Warren.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we will now move on to policy BEDH, public participation at board meetings. This one still has red lines in it because there were questions still under discussion, and I wanted to particularly give Kathleen a chance to say a little bit more about some of the points that she raised in the comments. And in particular, I noted that when I watched the last meeting, there was some concern raised around this. Is it really a question around First Amendment using pejorative or discriminatory language with reference to a person or a group on the basis of their religion, ethnicity, nationality, race, color, descent, gender, or other identity factor? It goes on to talk about defamatory comments, etc. So when I followed up with Kathleen about this, she said, yeah, that's pretty nuanced and tricky. And so Kathleen, I want to just give you a chance to maybe say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the clarification about rejecting suggestions from legal. That's absolutely true. And I should have shared that as well. To the extent your policy is working fine, don't let me cause problems with it. So on this one in particular, this was flagged partially because we are seeing some things around the state during public comment that are getting reactions from very well-intentioned board members. And so one of the things I just wanted to flag here is that there's been some case law recently and some other decisions that essentially clarify once again that because public comment at school board meetings is considered a limited public forum, we are permitted to put some restrictions in place, but what we can't do is put viewpoint restrictions in place. And the end result of that is that sometimes people can use language, I think I said in the comment there, that is pretty indefensible for a lot of reasons, or very strong, and that we might not allow in other contexts, but that we might have to allow in public comment for First Amendment reasons. There are a couple of cases about that recently, like I said. So I'm happy to sort of answer more specific questions about it, but I just sort of wanted to flag that because it is something that's been coming up, I would say, in the last few months around the state.
Do any committee members have any questions? Yes, Yusra Ali.
So if someone who's making public comments basically is engaging in, language or behavior that we do not welcome, does that mean that they are protected under their First Amendment rights to speak their mind? And at what point um do we let that person know that, they are not welcomed at the meeting? If that's, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And it's a very nuanced analysis. I think, as Dr. Warren pointed out, there are um, there are quite a few cases here, and they can kind of go all different directions depending on a lot of factors. What I would say is you are absolutely within your rights to prohibit things like slurs, calls to violence, threats, things that are objectively not protected by the First Amendment. Outside of those things, people can make comments that are inconsistent with our values or our public statements, even on things like discrimination, that we may have to allow. And we have other options for essentially um, letting folks know that we don't agree with the position of the speaker. But generally, we can't prohibit them from attending meetings or making those comments because we disagree with the viewpoint that they're expressing.
I see. So, with that thought process, then we are you suggesting that we don't that the board chair does not say the piece about using discriminatory language with reference to a person's or group based on religion and etc.
I think it's probably okay to leave that if you all are finding that you're not having any problems with this now. One of the recent cases I referenced was from a different federal court that it's the 11th Circuit. It's like the Florida area, Florida, Georgia, and they received a First Amendment challenge from somebody who from a group actually who alleged that public comment was being enforced differently for different groups. And one of the things that the court said was problematic about the policy in that case is that one of the things they prohibited was abusive language, for example. And I actually think it's okay to have things like prohibiting pejorative or discriminatory language as long as when it's enforced uniformly and not enforced because of opinion or viewpoint discrimination. So the problem in that case in the 11th Circuit is that it was only being enforced in certain circumstances. For example, the chair prohibited somebody from talking about the liberal left, or direct quote, the evil LGBTQ agenda, for example. And so while we might not like those comments, we generally have to allow them. And so if you're finding that you have consistency, there's not a problem with determining what falls under pejorative or discriminatory and whether or not we're talking about a viewpoint or we're talking about abusive language, then I think it's okay to leave. If you feel like they're close calls a lot of the time, we may want to sort of be more specific about what we prohibit and what we allow.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
I just saw that committee member Ali did join us. So welcome, Ali. And I don't know if we're just doing questions now on policy BEDH. And we have Kathleen Wade from Drummond Woodsum here to answer any questions that we have about these comments.
Yeah, thank you.
Chair Lentz, as the person who does moderate the public comment, do you have any thoughts that you might want to share on this?
I think the impetus behind getting this reviewed again was just because of what we are seeing across the state of Maine and across the country in terms of First Amendment kind of challenges. So, I think I would trust the committee to decide kind of where they want to land on this. Like, I think it is it is not tricky to identify when people are being pejorative or discriminatory based on the things that are listed in the policy. I think sometimes it is hard to tell when it's not those things. So take that for what you will, but that's the only thing that I feel challenged by within this policy.
Chair Lentz, can I ask a clarifying question on that? And Chair Lena, is that all right?
Yes, go ahead.
So Chair Lentz, would it, just from where you sit as the person who's having to manage the public comment, are you suggesting that it might be helpful if that were spelled out a little bit more in that particular section of the policy?
Could you zoom in a little bit? I'm going to see if I can get mine to be a little bit bigger, but I just wanted to see what Kathleen's potential changes might look like. Because my understanding from the changes suggested was that it's pejorative or discriminatory language, period, right? That I could ask people to not to refrain from. The additional categories are inclusive of just having pejorative and discriminatory language. Is that correct, Kathleen?
Generally, yes. One of the things that's tricky about this area of law is that if we have folks saying positive things about a particular group, um, then the negative things generally have to be allowed as well. And I think sort of the question I had when I read this policy is when does it cross over into, pejorative or discriminatory, and when is it expressing a viewpoint that we don't agree with?
Yeah. Yeah. I found that hard also. I mean, I feel very clear about like hate language, like during the pandemic and afterwards when we would have, Zoom bombers come in and like go right into really awful language, like that feels very clear to me. But I don't, yeah, then it gets gray when it's not really clear, right, Kathleen? So I think I would, yeah, I'm curious what the committee thinks as well.
Vice Chair Bondo.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, more I was reading more because it's that I try to see can we is anyway, Dr. Ryan, we can find a simple narrative who can include it all different denominations here instead of referring each specific because it may be different group who are not be represented here than one we have noticed here by the race, by religion, ethnicity, nationality, other. So it just depends if we can find something to summarize the aspects of beside of pejorative or discriminatory language. So I'm also in favor to really have people exercise their First Amendment because, like Kathleen mentioned, if they want to appreciate this something we like, so we have to accept the other way as well too. So this is why I try to see can have different ways to just to incorporate everything at once. I just bring this out instead to have name each of those specific uh, references of people with different ethnicity basis and religions or race or color. Race, because when I look about color, I don't know if it's really meaning to say color or can we have a different wording on that?
Mickey, did you want Kathleen to respond to that directly, or was that more just a discussion
No,
point?
no, it was a question. So I see if we can have something to summarize
Yeah.
everything we want to say here instead to name each of them, because we may miss some other categories of group who are not mentioned here. Yes.
Yeah, I think you absolutely, that's definitely one option you could have. I was just looking for our suggested language here. And what we use in our sort of sample policy is that we limit anything that's disruptive, but also vulgar, obscene, yelling, threatening, and defamatory comments are the suggestions that we have. I'm not sure if that gets all the categories that you'd like listed there, but that's one option for you to consider.
Could you read that just one more time, Kathleen?
Sure. It's speakers are expected to follow rules and refrain from engaging in disruptive conduct, including using vulgar and obscene language, yelling, threatening others by words or actions, making defamatory comments, and otherwise exceeding limits allowed, interrupting others, etc.
Okay, so the sample does not include the area that's highlighted in red in what we have.
It does not, partially because it is difficult on the fly from our perspective to determine what is acceptable and what is not, absent the things like vulgar or obscene language, for example.
And the other thing that's included that we don't have is yelling.
Correct.
We don't have
And
it in our policy, but that is in the sample.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Ali.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Maya. I think that, there are two different like points that we're kind of discussing here when we're trying to kind of talking about like the energy someone's giving, whether it's tone and noise and aggression and things like that. And then there, because that can also be looked as like expression, right? In different ways, like, I'm so frustrated about this and that. And then there's language. And we are in a school system. I mean, with all due respect to the law firm, even like the example doesn't really fit, I would say, the American US like system, because like prior to 1963 and 1964, because it's Brown versus Board of Education, it was literally that. And it clearly states after the civil rights that discrimination based on this, that, right? And my issue when we keep coming to this, it's like, if we're going to add to it, fine. But if we're going to try to understand how we're going to adopt it, we should adopt it from a federal US code, right? So if anything, if I see something positive about a specific racial group, right, it's weird, right? But if I'm trying to make it just in an explanatory way, that's not disrespectful, right? If I'm calling people out, like all these white people, right? That's where you encounter a problem, right? Because you're basing it all on these white people or all these Hispanics. But to say, a few different white individuals came to me, that's not discriminatory in any way. That's me explaining what happened, right? And not putting a point blank in and just taming all, like just putting a paint over all individuals like that, which is pretty much what the civil rights time was for, like literally that, to not paint because of a specific unidentifiable or like an identifiable difference in people, whatever it is, right? Religion, race, gender, ethnicity, and color. And these are also explained in the US government as well. So race and color, right? So with that being said, if we're going to do anything, I think that like minimizing it or removing it is just not ideal. I think adopting it and probably retaining those same wordings that we have. Yeah, it's just like apartheid, segregation. It's just like we have to have these things.
Kathleen, I have a clarifying question about the language that's highlighted here. And you said this before, but I just want to have you say it again so I can really understand. So you were saying that um, if we allow someone to make positive comments about a particular group or people who identify a certain way, we have to let them say negative comments as well?
Generally, yes. So in a limited public forum, which is what public comment period is considered, we are allowed to make what's called time, place, and manner restrictions on speech. How much time you have to speak, the manner of your speech. What we are not allowed to do is make viewpoint restrictions. And so it's part of the reason, for example, why most of and I believe you have an element of it as well, how we talk about how we don't discuss personnel matters in public session, right? And the reason why is because if we allowed positive public comments about personnel, we would have to allow negative comments about personnel. We cannot restrict the viewpoint. We cannot say only negative comments about a particular person or group are restricted.
So wouldn't this language be doing exactly that? And my question is that then a violation of the First Amendment to have this language?
Arguably, depending on how it's enforced, it is possible that it is a violation of the First Amendment.
Okay, so that's our question to the committee. Ellie, you would like to say something?
Yeah. So how does the First Amendment align with the Civil Rights Acts? Because it says even in publicly, you can't be discriminatory. You can't do it in a public setting.
And so I think part of it is looking at the actor, right? And so what the First Amendment does is it restricts the government, so in this case, the school, from restricting speech, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
the government may also not act in a way that is discriminatory.
Mm-hmm.
Individuals um, may make discriminatory comments, essentially, or comments that we view as discriminatory. They don't have the same rules that the government has. And so it would be problematic for one of our employees or one of our students or one of us to make discriminatory comments. And it may be that we don't like it when the public does so. But because of the First Amendment and our inability to restrict viewpoints, we may have to allow some of those. When they become threatening or vulgar or obscene, we still have an absolute right to restrict those comments. But comments based on a particular or restricting only a particular viewpoint is potentially problematic, despite the fact that it is well established, based on all of the history that you cited, that the government may not engage in discrimination.
Yes, but so technically, because of that act, the Brown versus Board of Education clearly stating that you cannot do any separations or any type of discrimination in school setting, and that is a school setting, wouldn't it still be illegal for someone to come in the school setting, part of the school, to start doing that?
For them to engage in discrimination, it would be. For them to make discriminatory comments is not necessarily, because their comments don't get attributed to the school. And so the comments of the public are not viewed as the government speaking. It's
Okay.
it's a
Right.
weird analysis. I'm going to give you that. It's a very weird analysis.
All right. I'm gonna take a look into the laws real quick because in general, like I think the largest piece about this is by because we already look at our equity policy and how we removed what discrimination means based on that. And then when we talk about, oh, now public comment, people can say whatever they want when it comes to discrimination. I mean, I see more problems than solutions. like it's going to be really bad. And this it allows anybody to say whatever the hell they want. So
I get what you're saying, Ollie. It's yeah. Dr. Warren wants to share something.
Yeah, I just wanted, because I'm not sure if member Ali was on, and I think you might have joined right as we were having a prior part of the conversation. I just want to make sure you heard that part too, where Kathleen was asked specifically about that section. And she said that if it's working for Portland Public Schools and for the committee, then the board doesn't necessarily need to remove that. She was just flagging, the recent court cases that have been coming up in that area so that the board is aware and can make an informed decision about, potential issues being raised. But it's not necessarily like I didn't hear Kathleen saying you must remove this. It was more like a flag, be aware that this could come up. But that if it's working for Portland, then Portland can keep it.
Okay, thank you for that. I think that it's probably one of our less issues to like. Apparently, we have losses on a lot of different things. So I think this is not one of the big ones that we should be worried about in blocking discrimination. But and if that happened only a few places across the country, I mean, I would love to learn from it so we don't make the same mistake that they make, so they can take it to court. But I would rather keep it.
After hearing all of that, do the other committee members have any additional thoughts or feedback on this section? Dr. Warren, with this policy, I know we're looking at the red lines here. If we were to go ahead to vote to approve them, we would be approving the red lines? Or is there?
I think that the other, in addition to this section, which was especially tricky, but it seemed to me in prior conversations, like the other thing the committee was wrestling with was whether or not to change the public comment period, and have it consolidated into one as opposed to the way it is now, where it's one up front and then another comment period for each of the votes that takes place. So I just wanted to make sure that the committee was clear on, which direction you're taking on that part of it. Because right now it's one, but if it moves to a single comment period, then we would need to go with the new language.
Did the committee members have anything to share on that? Whether, we should keep the public comment on the specific agenda items at the time that they're happening, or we should have all public comment at the beginning of the meeting? Or whenever, like the upcoming meeting, we're having the inauguration first and then public comment, but, having one structured public comment time and then not allowing public comment later in the meeting. Ali.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just speak just real quick and state that like I don't believe that I'm going to be in support of any of the changes right now during public comment, including the one we were just discussing and the ones about when it's going to be having the prior one. That one's really nice because everybody gets to speak about whatever issues they see, including our board or myself. And then the other ones are really it's good for the when we're trying to pass a policy or something like that. For example, last meeting we were kind of discussing the Title IX issue, and Tyler was able to come up and discuss some things about the Title IX in a public comment, and it was just really good, valuable that he explained that information. So it's just a lot of these things are going to probably come up in the future, and I just want to make sure that we have access to expertise that's probably there that can help us answer any questions. So I think that we should keep it. That's where my stance is. Thank you.
Carolyn's.
Yeah, I just had a question for Kathleen that I'm wondering if we could do, instead of an either or situation, that we could do both. That if people come to give public comment, they can either give it at the top of the meeting during public comment or during the motion that comes up like they wouldn't have to wait if they didn't want to. They could give it at the top. Um, or if they wanted to wait until the motion was on the floor, then they could give it then.
Yes, I think you could do that if you wanted to. The only requirement in the law is that you're required to hold a public comment period of some sort where people are allowed to speak about school and education matters, but how you do it beyond that is up to you.
I would be in favor of something like that. I mean, as someone who's given public comment at school board meetings, city council, like sometimes you don't know what time those things are going to happen. And, if you just want to come speak for 3 minutes, it's would be helpful to not have to spend 3 hours of your night waiting and not knowing when that's going to happen. But if you did want to wait and hear the discussion first, then you could have that opportunity. So that's something I would be in favor of.
Yes, I'm leaning to that too. So I mean, but we are giving each person who's willing to come and make comment, so they can choose where they want to make those comments. So they don't have, because sometimes we have those issues late of the night, and people have to sit there for hours just to wait to make a small line of comments. So I think the flexibility when those comments can be done, I'm really in favor. And also, I'm so in favor to keep the language the way it is. Don't have I'm not really see what's gonna make a difference. I think people can, yes, I'm just want to keep the way it is right now, but just go with the flexibility when we can have those comments to be made. Yeah.
Chairlina, the other questions raised here are around whether the committee or the board wants to limit the overall length of public comment time. There's the 3-minute limit per speaker, but there was just a question for discussion and debate around whether the board would want to give an overall limit. So that's one thing to consider. And then there's a note about committee meetings. I haven't heard the committee give any indication that they would want to change things and that there wouldn't be public comment at committee meetings, but that was just a note for discussion as well.
Yeah, we didn't, no one brought up any concerns about changing anything with regard to committee meetings. My personal thoughts on limiting the time, I would be concerned. I don't know how we would pick a particular amount of time. And I wouldn't want someone to be there and not get a chance to speak if they really wanted to share something because of our time limit. Chair Lentz, go ahead.
Just a couple of thoughts. So it never got its way into policy, but there has been kind of like a gray guideline that all public comment has to be done by 10 p.m. And that was kind of like the cutoff that's been in board docs and then got moved over to diligent community. So you could consider maybe like a not necessarily like 1 hour of public comment, but the public comment has to end by a certain time. And then I did hear from Chair Bryden of the Finance Committee that as we're moving into budget season, there's a little bit of worry that if there tends to be a lot of public comment in committee, that committee work may not be able to happen since we're on this back-to-back committee schedule now of an hour-and-a-half meeting that rolls into another hour-and-a-half meeting. And so I let her know that I would bring that here to see, with a committee meeting, is it 15 minutes of public comment or half an hour? I don't know what the guideline is, but I think we may want to consider some sort of guideline for committees just so the committee work can also get done. But I do think it's important to continue to offer public comment at committee level.
Ali, go ahead.
I have a question, Kathleen. So there's no regulation at all. We can make the whole public comment 5 minutes.
I think probably yes, technically, the legal requirement is found in the in Title 20A, Section 1001, board obligations, and it basically just said the board will hold public comment so that folks can speak to you about school and education matters. So there is no limit there as far as I'm concerned. I know some schools do limit that to 30 minutes. It sounds like that would not be at all practical in your circumstances. But there's no requirement that you essentially allow public comment to go on indefinitely.
Okay. I just want to touch back on the point that Maya, was saying, and I understand that, they don't have to wait 3 hours. But I mean, leaving it as it is right now would also allow them to pick and choose when they want to do a public comment. Like last time we had the last, 2 weeks ago, we had the longest I've seen public comment. And it was a lot, but then we had opportunities for public comment in multiple different areas after that, and really only one person spoke up, which was Tyler. So it just keeping it all together also gives the option of when you want to say something in the public comment. So just want to push that in. But when it comes to like the timing and stuff like that, I do respect that, we want to limit it. I'm okay if we limit it to 10 p.m. But what I'm afraid of is if we have a full meeting and we change like the time of the public comment to the end, for example, and the meeting ends at 10, right? And we don't have access to listen to people. Like I want to make sure that, the public comment, because it's valuable, I mean, to all board members and people who are watching.
Chairlins, I have a question, and Dr. Warren. I mean, I know City Council specifically says in their public comment um, guidelines that you may not speak on an agenda item until the agenda comes up, and I don't see that here, right? So I don't know that we do need to change it to um, make it so people can have a choice.
That could have just been a weird holdover that I inherited. Yeah, great observation, Maya. I mean, I think that so then that like leaves it to the board's discretion about when it's going to be. I guess I would like prefer to have more like whatever the guidelines are that the committee thinks should be in existence, that they should be lined out here.
Can you clarify what you mean? Sorry.
That if they want to if people want to have an opportunity for public comment during motions and later, that we say that people can either give public comment at the beginning or during a motion when it comes to the floor.
Okay, so an explicit sentence that
Yes,
explains that, like you can speak later too if you would like to.
yes.
Okay, great. Yes, Kathleen.
I just wanted to point out, I think partially it's because it's deleted on this version, but it does say that there's two ways to give public comment. It says during the general public comment for issues not being voted on at that meeting. That's part of the first or second deletion there at the top. And then the second way is during each vote. So I do think the current policy contains language suggesting the first general comment period is only for non-agenda items.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
it
I
had
was
been
just
deleted.
looking
Yeah,
for
thank
that.
you.
Yeah, it's in the comments on the right where the deletions show up. Sorry, that's the nature of this particular version of the redlining. But it,
Okay. Yeah, I see that. So issues not being voted on at that meeting. Um,
so
so we would need to,
there was a proposal to potentially take that out, which could be rejected and it could keep, be kept as it has been, or that could be removed. That's the question.
it sounds like there might be an interest in revising that sentence to be more inclusive and offer both as options. And so if someone wanted to speak during the general public comment period about something being voted on, they could. Yusra Ali, I saw your hand up. Would you like to share something?
Yes. This is what I was thinking about in that, yes, I do like that we have several options to make public comments, but then sometimes agenda items might come later in the night. So that kind of defeats the purpose of, having options. And this is where I feel like I'm now leaning more towards a more um uniform process of maybe just one public comment but I know the board is not feeling that right now. Um, because it makes no sense. But if we're changing this, the sentence that we were just discussing and giving people an option to make up public comments on um, agenda items and like general things, but then that also now, I don't know, that just looks a little messy for lack of a better word, and just all over the place. Um, so yeah, that's just what I was thinking.
I think the desire to have an option to speak later is that if someone wanted to hear the discussion, or be there, be part of the discussion a bit as much as they can through public comment, so that it's current with the discussion that the board is having. That is helpful. It can be helpful.
I remember this being really helpful during budget season, where people came with a certain comment and then looked at what was presented and then later either got some clarifications. Um, but that took a really long time, and I don't want to sound like, you know, we're giving people limits, but sometimes that we do need to have some kind of a limit because we also need to go home. Um, so yeah, that's just my thought process and just sharing it out loud.
Thank you. Um, okay, so I'm not sure if we have a consensus on what we should do with this. Um, Let me see.
I think I have a process question too, which is we're at 7 o'clock. So we have the potential for the committee to give us guidance and we could go away and come back with an updated version based on that guidance. Or the committee could try to work out amendments to get to the version you want. But yeah, either way, but we do have ACAA and ACAB ahead of us, which would be great if we could get to them if possible. If not, we'll have to bring that back next week.
I think it would make sense to move on to ACAA and ACAB, and not dwell on this too much with amendments. I know it feels urgent to have it passed, but maybe we could get it to a place where we could look at it in the very beginning of the next meeting. People agree, have it sent around in advance. So I think what I'm hearing from the group mostly is that the part at the bottom, there is not a consensus to remove that highlighted area. So leave that as is. And unless anyone wants to say otherwise right now. And then for this part on the top, I would, and I think Chair Lentz would like clarification or a rewording to have people have the option of the beginning of the meeting or later if something's being voted on. But I did hear Board Member Yusra Ali saying that she wasn't sure it made sense to have the two sections just for the efficiency piece. Does anyone else want to share any thoughts and direction for Dr. Warren? Dr. Warren, I mean, that's not very clear. I'm sorry, not good. Go ahead, Ellie.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think that it's, I don't really see it, enough folks like seeing too much of an issue with it, and there are like some slight edits and amendments we can probably make when it comes to what topic people are discussing and when it's being discussed. As of right now, I don't really see it as a larger problem with the committee folks. So I mean, just leaving as is personally would be good. And if someone does have something, then just like Maya said, just send it over and you guys can work on it and bring it back to us. But that's it.
I wonder if the piece about the committees, it could be left up to the discretion of the committee chair. I mean, that might take care of the issue with the finance committee around budget season, that, the committee chair has the discretion to limit the length of public comment given the agenda or something like that.
Oh yeah, like post 30 minutes. Then it goes to the discretion of the something like that. So we don't. Because if we say 100% discretion, that means anybody can eventually be the chair and be like, we're not going to have it, so.
Mm. Yeah. Is that sufficient, Dr. Warren? I mean, you and I can check in also, if that's okay.
Yeah, we have the advantage of Kathleen being here, hearing it directly too. So maybe you can help us, Kathleen, come up with some language.
Thank you
Sure.
so much. Great. Okay, I think we could move on to ACAA and ACAB.
Okay, great. So before we actually look at the policy, or policies, again, we have Jennifer Slabink with us, our head of HR, and I wanted to give Jennifer and Bridget maybe a chance just to share a little bit about how we're working on these types of issues and particularly investigations. There were some questions raised at the last board meeting during public comment, which we didn't have a chance to respond to. So there was information provided in the most recent board update, but for the record and to make sure everybody hears it directly from the head of HR, I want to give Jennifer just a couple minutes to share a little bit in response to some of the questions raised.
Thank you. So yeah, I think I'll try to touch on just a couple of questions that I know had come up specifically around training. So myself and Bridget Wheeler are the ones currently handling Title IX related issues. I'm the Title IX coordinator, and Bridget is supporting that work. And over time, it will transition over to her. There was a question about training, and yes, we both have been trained. So understanding Tyler was really awesome when he left. We had some really nice conversations before he left the district. And one of the things he shared with me is that with him was going a loss of that knowledge of the Trump administration policies specific to Title IX, and that we would want to make sure that myself and anyone else was trained in those policies. And so Bridget and I have done that. We've completed that training. So just want to make sure that there's awareness of that for everyone who might be wondering. As a result of that, there was another question around our principals then required to do Title IX investigations. And so right now we're asking that those things, whether we are getting the initial reporting through the online form or whether those are being reported directly to us, we're determining what the need is and then what the best course of action is. But myself, with Bridget's support and or Drummond Woodsum, if it's necessary and applicable, would be the ones conducting any investigations at this time. And certainly principals, there are keeping in mind that some of the reporting that comes through are issues that may not actually be Title IX specific. And so those would be things that we would want to be handled at our school sites, where there are things where maybe there's something between a couple of students and there may need to be a separation in classrooms or things like that. Those are things that would continue to be handled at our school sites. And I'm sorry, I'm looking at any other questions around the liaison. Yes, we do have Title IX liaisons at our secondary campuses. And those have all been identified as of, I want to say, mid-November. They've all been formally identified and are now listed in our Title IX form. And we have a meeting in January to sort of connect with all of them and really look at and revisit how we're doing things and make sure that we're all aligned in how we're collecting information, how we're capturing information around possible, whether it's Title IX investigations or other types of behaviors in our school campuses that we want to sort of track and monitor. And so that meeting will be in January. And so I'd say stay tuned. We may have some thinking about how, if we want to look at doing things in any sort of different way. But that is sort of our current status as it relates to those three questions that had been brought forward at the last board meeting. And I think hopefully that's that. We've done a couple of other things I'll just sort of highlight. We have done an initial revision on the reporting form when Tyler was excellent in leaving me like a very nice transition document that sort of shared where things were and any status of anything that I may need to follow up on. And also about the form for that informal initial reporting. And so we had made some initial changes just to like switch from Tyler's name to my name and things like that. Bridget and I did some work last week at just going through that form again to make sure that we are accurately capturing the information that we need should we need to conduct investigations, including information like understanding who's making the report. Does the report involve a staff member or students? Because that may dictate the direction that we take in terms of an investigation. So that form has had some revision, and that I believe is live at this point. We also did take a look at some of our language on the website just to make sure that we had good alignment for our landing pages on the website for student reporting or for staff reporting, and just making sure that all of those things were up to date. And that includes some of our equity work as well. So I think that covers, Sarah, all of the things that we've sort of been working on. I know I'm missing a couple of things in terms of some of the equity related work, but hopefully that addresses the major questions that came up at the last meeting.
Great, thank you. So before we move back to the policy itself, are there any questions? Okay. Great. So my understanding in the board meeting was that the board was passing it back to the committee. I mean, the committee had already voted it through with the proposed changes, red lines. And so the question, I think, as I understood it, others can correct me, was just making sure that there was nothing else that the committee would want to change in light of the public comment. There were the questions raised, and there was also a suggested amendment around a civil rights officer. And so I think the question for the committee is, are you still okay with the changes that were passed through to the board, or are there additional changes you want to make before it goes back to the board?
I had a question from board member Opperman that I'll just read. She said the list of suggested revisions presented in public comment seemed to be R, or procedural items for standards of procedures. Is that what will become of the suggestions? So she was wondering if those are more related to the rules than the policy.
Well, so let me say one thing about the rules. We had, with Kathleen's help, updated the rules to align to the proposed changes in the policy, all of which, is geared towards making sure we're in alignment with current federal requirements. But the rules, because of that concern that the wrong rules are the out-of-date rules are up on the website, and the rules are effectively the procedures that we need to be following. So on Friday, we went ahead and put the rules, the updated version of the rules up on the website so that people would be able to see how the current requirements operate under the procedure. So because staff can change those, and those are not voted on by the board, they're kind of a living document, and we can update those as needed. But there was nothing in public comment that I heard that would have suggested a specific change. I don't know, Jennifer, Bridget, or others, if you heard something in particular that would have changed the nature of the rules. I mean, the one question raised was around an amendment to potentially require a civil rights officer above and beyond the Title IX coordinator. And I think that's a board decision.
Hi.
Ali, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we all remember exactly what Tyler kind of suggested. It seemed like he just knew a lot of information about this. But I would like to consider to having a civil rights officer or someone specifically assigned to deal with these type of complaints that if they occur, not only Title IX, including Title VII, including there's other titles, but someone that is just assigned to that itself. Because I feel like, yeah, I feel like it could be necessary, honestly. And right now, as of right now, we don't like Title IX is really it's non-functional in a way, right? So that's pretty much why I'm saying that.
I mean, Director Slaving just went over how it's functioning, or will, they've made sure to make to clarify who is doing what roles and what how it is to proceed. So I don't know that I would say it's not functional. I think it just
I
maybe there
mean,
was a short lapse.
yeah, I mean, just in the recent past, that like people are saying like there's no way that they can access it or they can't put their stuff in, and that's pretty much why we had the uproar as well. So I'm just looking at it based on that like procedural way. If I needed to do it in 5 weeks ago, I couldn't have done. Like there was, I just, you know what I'm saying. So we weren't updated. Is what I meant.
Yeah, I mean, Director Slaving, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, right. I was going to chime in and just sort of say that I think, I mean, I'd have to look at the exact number of reports that have been filed, but people have absolutely been, when the form was live when Tyler left, and the only change we really made to it was to change it over to my name instead of Tyler's. But the form has remained live in the same way that it was when he was in the role, and the reports have certainly continued to come in and be dealt with as they've come in.
So the link works right now that there's a
Yeah.
way I can go on and put it into Title IX, not the student one. I'm talking about just like the adult one, Title IX specifically.
Yes, the link is live.
The link is live right now. So if it's been live, is what you're saying.
It's been live. It's never not been live. We made a couple of revisions to it at the end of last week, just really for some internal, I would say more for internal reasons, because like right now we're sort of teasing apart. Maybe a complaint might come in and it might be a student to student issue versus a student complaint about a staff or a staff member about a staff member. Right. So we changed it a little bit just so that that would help when the reports come in, it'll help filter the direction that we need to send it in for next steps. But that link has been live the entire time.
Okay, I would like to, if whenever you do get a chance for you to show me how it's live, where it's live, and how I can get on there, because I didn't see it, and yeah, so I'd appreciate that.
No problem. I'd be happy. You have my email address, and I'd be happy to set up a time and sit with you and go over anything, any questions you have.
Actually, right now, could we just like pull up the PPS website? Because I think it is helpful for anybody watching at home too, to know where to access this. I think one thing that we did here at the board meeting was that the button on the homepage had gotten taken down, and that is back up and going. So Dr. Warren, I don't know if you could just pull up the Portland Public Schools website really quickly.
Yeah, let me see if I can get it. The other thing that we did last week was just make sure that you could access the link from multiple different parts of the website, whether you were coming in under the student drop down, the families drop down, or the staff drop down. Now you can get to the link in the reporting form from anywhere. So let me see if I can do this.
And while Dr. Warren's looking for that, can I ask why that button or the link from the homepage was not there? If it was there, I mean, on websites, to edit a website, you would have to physically remove it, unless it's in a website issue. Like I want to know like why it was not there.
Sarah, it's right. If you scroll down, Sarah, in those 10 colored buttons right there, there's the report a concern button right on that front page. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, there it is. Or report in English, report in whatever language.
And
Can you?
remember, Ali, the question you're asking about why that button went away.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure. I think it may have been, I think it was honestly a technology issue more than it wasn't a decision that it should go away. I think it probably had something to do with, the team trying to balance all the buttons and may have inadvertently taken that one out. But it wasn't an intentional erasing of that from those buttons. The other thing, so you can get to it straight from the home page. You can also get to it from the student drop down, and it takes you to the same thing. You can now get to it from the families drop down. And then you can get to it from the staff drop down. And the other thing that was done, I believe it's up now. Let's just check.
It's at the bottom of that list
Thank
of
you.
last one.
And then there's a different landing page, a little bit different for staff, just to account for some of the differences in what staff and students experience.
Right. Okay. Oh,
So
thank
the language it was, and thank you to the board for pointing this out, and especially Chair Lentz, that it was confusing because when you clicked on, if you came at it from a staff perspective and you clicked on the link, you would get to a page that said students at the top, and that I think was really confusing for people. So we've tried to correct for that.
Okay. No, thank you for that. I just wanted to make sure that because tons of people said that they were on it, and I checked on it too, and I couldn't find it. So that must have been a mishap. That
Yeah, I
there's
apologize for that.
no worries.
While
Thank
we're
you.
on this topic, one of the things that Tyler proposed, I have the sheet that he gave us at the meeting, was specifically about this. And he was proposing under section 4 to replace some wording with this wording, which is PPS strives to ensure multiple avenues for reporting concerns about harassment and discrimination, including to maintain and publicize an online reporting form that is easily accessible and that provides an option to make an anonymous report without elevating it to formal complaint. And the rest of the language is the same. The original wording doesn't say anything about an online reporting system. It says, PPS will maintain an anonymous reporting process to provide students the option. So it doesn't specifically say that there's going to be an online reporting form, but I leave it up to the committee to see if you'd like to make that amendment to accept his recommendation. But Mickey, I saw your hand up, so go ahead with your comment.
Yes, thank you. No, it's not a comment, just a quick clarification. Now we have everything because before we didn't have. I just want to follow up what Member Ali just mentioned because I've been on the website for times and time. I never see any reporting system here because the way I knew it was just on the Infinity campus. So I'm just wonder if we're gonna have now we have everything set up back here in our website. So we going to still using also the Infinity campus like a reporting system?
I'm not aware that Infinite Campus was being used for these types of reports. It's generally where we maintain student information.
Okay.
Jennifer, do you know if any differently?
I don't know.
Because I just need to get back to because I don't want to get confused. Because I remember a couple years ago while we made that resolution on the Title IX, it was a different ways than the student used to do reporting to be anonymous. It was not through the website because the website was built right after. That's a new website that we have. I just want to say if I still get right in my
Yeah,
mind.
I don't know how it might have been done in the past. I think since I have been here for a little over 2 years, it has been through the website. It's just that I think it was maybe hard for people to find, and now we've
Okay.
tried to give multiple entry points so that they can get at it from lots of places.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Thank you.
Well, we're really close to the end of our meeting time. I don't know, Dr. Warren, I mean, the reason this was brought back to the committee was we wanted to take a look at the suggestions that Tyler made, and see if we wanted to accept those amendments. Do you have those I didn't see them in board docs, Dr. Warren. Is it something we could easily share? I don't know that we have time to go through and, you
Um,
know, read through
yeah,
them and
I didn't upload that because it, it didn't seem appropriate for me to post something that came from public
make
comment
sense.
as a formal board document, but committee members could certainly take that language as guidance and create an amendment, or you could also direct me and Kathleen to go back and look at that and see if there's a way to work it in that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the two proposed amendments, one was, having in the policy that we have a civil rights officer. So that would be one amendment. And the other was about having a formal online reporting system as a policy. Um, so those were the two things that he was suggesting. We really haven't had a chance. I mean, we do have the formal reporting system. Um, it's not written into the policy. And then the other was the civil rights officer. I mean, I feel like that's a bigger discussion. We don't have time to discuss that right now. Um, so I think,
Maybe we should just bring it back next week.
yeah, geez, this is like, it's hard to get through all of these things. Ellie, do you have a quick comment?
Yeah, quickly. Yeah, I just want to get through next week. So if possible, get to it next week. If possible, can we get that just right now in language so we can discuss it?
I can email it. Just put it up right now, you mean? Or,
No, not right now. For next week, like if that
yeah,
can be this, so like maybe I may make a motion or something. So, or yeah, a suggestion. I don't know what it's called, but
an
I would like,
amendment.
yeah, amendment. Thank you.
I'm happy to send that out to the committee, the language that he suggested so that we can all look at it more closely.
And I can also share that with Kathleen
I
and see
yeah,
if
I
there's
am in
any other.
favor.
Go ahead, Mickey.
I say I was in favor. Mhm. I I am in favor. Yes, Maya.
Okay,
I just
great.
favoring. Yes.
Great. Okay. Um, Thank you all for being here. I know there's a lot of meetings, so I really appreciate everyone coming to share all this information with us. It's super helpful. Um, I so Dr. Warren, do you feel clear on that directive?
Relatively, yeah. I
Okay.
think so.
So I think it's to take the suggestions that he had and um, put them in as but I feel as the committee chair with the civil rights officer one, I feel like I don't know that we're necessarily ready to put that in as a suggestion. I think it would have to come as an amendment from a committee member.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll put it in as an amendment, and then we can discuss it if next time. Just
okay,
then, yeah.
great. And then the other thing would be the online reporting. So I think maybe just will come with amendments. We'll be ready. Is that okay, Dr. Warren? Okay, great. Okay. Um, I would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? Thank you, Ali. All in favor with a show of hands? Oh, I cannot see. Great. And okay, we are now adjourned at 7:28 p.m. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.